Paddy McAloon isn't too keen about going out on the road.
I hate it. I like to spend a lot of time just by myself. You can call it antisocial or whatever, but that's what I like. That's where I get my best ideas, when I'm just by myself. And you can't do that when you're on tour.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get sophisticated. That's right, Sophistopop is a BAM! Word of the day, BAM! HIB, stamp of approval. Okay, now when you think about Sophistopop, you may think of the elegance of the Avalon music video from Roxy Music, or perhaps the smooth and longing sounds of something like the Downtown Lights from the Blue Nile. But today, I'm talking about one of the coolest, one of the smoothest, one of the most poetic bands of all time. Prefab Sprout. And you know what? They get the BAM! HIB stamp of approval too. And that is because I have been absolutely enamored with this group for about the past year or so, because it doesn't matter how many times I listen to a Prefab Sprout record. Every single time I am amazed with their use of incredibly clever lyricism paired with incredibly intricate melodies and chord structures. And because of that, there's many different ways to approach talking about Prefab Sprout. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about one of the aspects of this band that they do better than perhaps anybody else. In fact, I think the only contender when it comes to lust songs is probably Leonard Cohen, and that might very well be a video for another day. Okay, what do we know? We know a couple things. One thing, love songs are everywhere, okay? You get love of Alice, you get love of Streets, you get love of Satellites, you get love Voodoo. Everyone has a song about love. But lust songs are a bit different, okay? The first fundamental reason for this is strictly the lyrical content, as probably expected. So when it comes to Prefab, the best representation of this is probably found in this album right here, Protest Songs, the song Talking Scarlet. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to say that this is perhaps the most straightforward lust song that has ever been written. It is quite plainly about a man who is in love with a friend of his who just so happens to be his neighbor's wife. Now, this general plot isn't inherently very interesting, nor is it really even new in the realm of more general love songs. I'm immediately reminded of another songwriting masterclass in Lou Reed's song Pale Blue Eyes from the Velvet Underground. However, the way Paddy uses language is incredibly interesting in the way that it gives a look into the mind of our protagonist character. Now, there's a very common trope that I'm sure that we're all aware of the stuttering fool in love character who, every time that they try to confess their love, always says the wrong thing and then keeps talking too much and keeps digging themselves into a hole the more that they keep speaking. And here Paddy uses that idea in a slightly different way that perfectly gets across the lustful nature of the character. So let's just walk through the verse section of the song and you'll see what I mean. So first, Paddy starts with this part.
I will say late one evening, while moonstruck beside her, I'll break the bonds of friendship one by one.
It's like, okay, yep, got that.
I'll tell her I'm more than some friendly fellow.
Yup, yup.
I will say how you doing, so casually. She never suspects I'm harboring thoughts of kissing her neck. I think my mouth's been drinking. My basis thoughts do the thinking. You've no shame when Scarlet is your name.
And there you go. So in this way, the character creates perhaps the worst possible course of action, then doubles down on it a couple of times, and then creates his excuse all in the same breath. And then on top of that, you get this sort of really sad but also kind of funny bit from Wendy that follows it up.
Yes, he's crying in his sleep. Yes, he's thoroughly miserable for me. Losing his looks for me. Losing.
And this line just works wonderfully as sort of an idea of the woman character in the story. So here's an outline of the section of the song that we just listened to. Obviously, we, the listener, know that the main character here is merely plotting his course of action. We know that he isn't actually acting yet in the story. These are all just ideas in his head. So it's only reasonable then to say that the part from Wendy isn't a response from the woman in the story, but rather the idea in the main character's head that further keeps him miserable in this situation. It's like the idea of what the woman would actually say in response to him. And I think that that is incredibly clever. This song was also one of the first tracks Paddy wrote, and while the song did end up getting revised before the official release on Protest Songs, the musicality of the track remains that same type of swoon, jazzy, almost jaggedness of a significant amount of the early Sprouts tracks. So in this way, Talking Scarlet is probably the perfect lyrical lust song. The lyrics of the song paint a very vivid picture of this character that's equal parts sympathetic and pathetic, and does so with the lyricism that's very intricate and very detailed, but also has equal parts misery for the situation and humor looking at the situation from an outside perspective that I think is just outright genius. However, as I mentioned before, the lyrics aren't the only aspect of Prefab Sprout that I think makes them the perfect band when it comes to talking about lust songs. So now we're going to move on over to another song off this album, Jordan the Comeback. You already know what it is if you know Jordan the Comeback. That's right, Wild Horses. Just listen to that, okay? Lush, ethereal, filled with wonderment. It's like the perfect soundscape to a mythical adventure with a castle and a princess and a...
Through the rails, I spied your ponytail. I tried with sugar cubes and they're okay, but I don't think I'll catch you that way. I hate myself, 'cause you're so cool with your mocking eyes. Won't you look at the old fool?
And that's where it hits you. You get the musical soundscape, which almost perfectly embodies a sense of childlike wonderment, paired directly against lyricism that are very dark and painting a very devious picture of our new protagonist character here. That's right, element number 2 when it comes to lust songs in Prefab Sprout, Subversion, and it works so well. But wait, time for a point of reference. Aqualung by Jethro Tull. Pretty much the same story, paints an extremely devious picture of a very similar character. However, there is one major songwriting difference between these. And I'm sure most of you have heard Aqualung, but if you haven't, it's very much a song in 2 sections. One clearly meant to demonize the character, paired with harsh, distorted guitar lines and gruff vocals, while the second, to sympathize with the character, with a much more stripped back and melodic acoustic section. Now, one of the reasons that Aqualung works so well as a song is because it starts by introducing you to this scum-of-the-earth character in Aqualung before almost forcing you to sympathize with a character that society has simply miscast. Now, switching back around, that is not the case with Wild Horses at all. If someone was casually listening to this song, I don't think that they would have any reason to suspect it to have any sinister quality to it at all. In fact, all the people that I've shown it to have either said that it just sounded nice or that it would work well as a sort of slow dance song. And that is what I really think takes this song into a masterclass of songwriting, if you will, is because the music is so clearly meant to deceive the listener, or at least make them think that there's nothing sinister in the song at all, where the lyrics are very blatant, very direct. And that is exactly what the character in the song would be doing. The same level of deception, same level of ideas, this whole sugar cube section, you know exactly what he's talking about. And that's just fantastic. The way that you can articulate the scene in the song by playing the same trick on your audience, that's awesome. Also, if you haven't heard the '89 home demo of Wild Horses from Paddy, I would highly recommend listening to that. It's a very realized version of the song, but in its demo form, it's much rougher, and there's such a vast distinction between the lushness and the deception going on in the verses, and then the chanting of the Wild Horses section is just like the main character's going insane, and I think that's awesome. I think that they're very interesting to listen to, the studio version along with the demo, and so I have that linked in the description along with every other song that I talk about. Highly recommend checking that out. What do we want now? We have the lyrics, we have the humor, we have the musical subversion. Well, I actually do think that there's another element. Maybe it doesn't improve the song, but I do think that there's another element worth noting here, and we can find it over here in this album right here, Andromeda Heights. And that song is A Prisoner of the Past. So So Prisoner of the Past is a lust song first and foremost. It's a song lusting for the past, very clearly, even in the title you could get that. And to be more specific, it's for a past relationship that has somehow ceased to be. And on top of that, this song combines all the elements that we've talked about so far. So first we can see the musical element here, the musical subversion. And all the music in this track, the best way that I could describe it is it sounds nostalgic. Like, I mean, that drum beat is straight out of Say Goodbye to Hollywood. And you took the words right out of my mouth. Two songs that are nostalgic, very purposefully so, trying to invoke that feeling in the listener. And the same can be said for A Prisoner of the Past. It evokes this feeling of commemoration while also having a sense of triumph, as if the song is trying to directly evoke a memory of a past struggle, and now you're finally feeling like you're overcoming it. But that's where it gets you with the lyrical subversion. So listen to this section of the chorus without the vocal. And if you ask me, I think it sounds extremely triumphant, as if it would be used in the score for a monumentous event in a film. Now, let's pair it with the lyrics.
This ghost is here to stay. He survived the blast. Get ready to say, I found my niche at last. A prisoner of the past.
Okay, so there's a lot going on this line, but firstly, obviously, it is clear that now that the music, the triumphant sounds, the sense of nostalgia is meant to not necessarily deceive the listener, because the song is clearly about the past, but it's, I guess it's nostalgia for the wrong reason, so the music is evoking perhaps a more positive feeling than is actually being prescribed by the song. I don't know how to even articulate how perfect I think the I found my niche at last line is, but I think that it gets everything together. It gets the lust, it gets the subversion, it gets the humor, and it gets the pure sadness all in one. It's as if our protagonist here is a man who has struggled with himself to find his calling in life, finally found something to care about, lost it, and now doesn't even care that he's a ghost now, to quote from the song, because guess what? He has something to care about and something he's good at. And I think that that is the point that makes this the quintessential Prefab Sprout lust song, in that it's at least somewhat relatable. I think it's very likely that every single one of us has had some experience where we end up lusting for the past, and no matter how much we progress on from whatever that event may be, part of us will always be stuck there, and maybe we aren't as desperately stuck as the protagonist is in this song, but still, I think that the song describes a fairly universal feeling that everyone will feel at some point in their lives, that clearly shows how much Paddy understands the human condition, far better than most. And that pretty much is Prefab Sprout to me. A group masterfully capable of invocating feeling in musical motifs and passages, combined with highly elaborate lyricism that cuts to the heart of the human condition. You know, maybe not every song from Prefab Sprout is personally relatable. I mean, I would sure hope not. But I believe every song. I believe these are real people. I believe these are real situations. And it shows that Paddy has such a detailed, nuanced, and fundamental understanding of the human condition here. And that's what Prefab Sprout is to me. They're music that every single time that I can listen to them feels like it actually understands the world that it lives in, while also just being musically absolutely fantastic. I mean, just listen to anything off Steve McQueen and tell me that that isn't some of the most widely appealing, sophisticated, detailed, nuanced, just outright fantastic sonic music to listen to. And Prefab Sprout is still here. Paddy's still here. Paddy is still actively working on music. Could he hurry it up? Yeah, he could hurry it up. He's got, what, 17 albums that he's already got? We got the Christmas album. We got the Fox album. We got Earth the Story So Far, even though we already have Earth the Story So Far, the song. We get to look forward to that. You know what? And I think that that's something worth looking forward to. So, Prefab Sprout. I think that they're one of the best bands of all time. I think that they're one of the most widely appealing bands of all time. I think that the lyrics show that. I think that the music shows that. I think that anyone can find a Prefab Sprout song to absolutely adore, not something to just like. I think that they can adore a Prefab Sprout song. And I hope that you're a big Prefab Sprout fan too, because I'm a big Prefab Sprout fan, and I have not met a single person who has heard of Prefab Sprout before saying it. So I need your guys' help to spread the word. I'm trying to do my part. So there we go. So thank you for watching the video. I appreciate everyone who's watched the video. Subscribe below to get the ACIB stamp of approval for yourself. Let's keep spread the word of Prefab Sprout, because let me tell you what, we need more people to listen to this fantastic music, because it is that good.
How to shock a pretty friend. You try to impress her, but impress rhymes with undress. And when the first is on your mind, then the other one isn't far behind. I would choose after the dance, while walking beside her, to break the bonds of friendship one by one. I tell her